One of the most persistent lies the right spreads about trans people is the idea that they're predatory. There's a few ideas I have to get out on the table first before we can really delve into this topic and then watch the video on the news story that I brought up. And one of the core things is the fact that conservatives rarely bring up the existence of trans men or AFAB non-binary people. Outside of very, humorous sort of, joke context. When it comes to their actual political engagement and their rhetoric and their propagandizing, 99% of it is focusing on trans women. And I think that this is happening for a few core reasons. One of the biggest is that when it comes to sexual predation of any kind, men are typically associated with that type of behavior way more than women are, right? And the idea of what a trans woman is in a conservative's mind is a man pretending to be a woman, is what they think a trans woman is. And so you take the tendency for men to usually be predators, more so than women, and you take the idea of a man masquerading as a woman as they see it, and that combination of presuppositions forms some very dangerous ideas that are... all of the compounds for transphobia are already taught in society. All that's got to happen is for those ideas to mix in a brain that already contains those ideas, and you've got transphobia. And I don't think this is a woman or man exclusive thing, mind you. You might think, well, why would men fall for this? Men don't hate men typically. In fact, most men are put off by the brand of feminism. It's all about hating men. So why would they be susceptible to that idea? Well, I think most men see other men that way too, as more likely to be predatory, especially sexually. If not, they see men at the very least as some kind of sexual competition, as some other hunter out there trying to, get their nut, as competition to them or something. There's not that much camaraderie among men, just on the basis of being men. Most men by default, are at best neutral towards each other, maybe even starting off as negative towards each other unless something else happens to kind of build a friendship up. You got to start on the right foot, two guys, to become friends. There's not a base, always existing camaraderie between bros. That shit's gotta, that's gotta be built between guys, right? At least from my perspective as a dude, it seems like women have almost a... oh, you're a woman, I'm a woman? Hell yeah. Bro code? Bro code's not real, Lucky Otter. Honestly, the bro code's real. If the bro code is real, it exists between bros. Bro doesn't mean dude and dude who are total strangers and don't know each other. Bros means, dude, we've known each other since we were in middle school. I've known you and helped you through 50 breakups. You helped me through when my grandma died. I was there for you, and you gave me that extra cash I needed when my cat had a seizure and I had to take her to the vet. I gave you a place to stay when your house burned down and you need a place to live. We're bros, dude. That's what bros, bro code means. When you're bros with someone like that, yeah, there's a kind of a code to what you do and how you act, right? The sisterhood thing is definitely it feels more like a cultural standard, two women who are strangers. If a woman is alone somewhere and says out loud, I need to use the bathroom, a non-zero amount of women that she does not know will say, oh, me too, let me go with you. That will nothing like that happens among men. Nothing even approaching that happens among men. There is no camaraderie on a basic level. Men don't even like or trust each other until a reason otherwise is given. At best, it's neutrality. Does that make sense? So in a way, the men who complain so much about man-hate, they're not so much complaining about man-hate as they're complaining about man-hate that includes them. When a feminist says, fuck all men, I promise you none of these men would be getting mad if those feminists said, fuck all men except for that specific guy. They would not be getting pissed at those tweets. They don't have a problem with the fact that men, their identity is being attacked. Men don't have a connection to their identity. I'm gonna be completely real with you. Guys don't think about being guys. We don't have to. We don't have to think about our gender and what that means for us when we're walking down the street, when we're in a crowded space, when we're alone with another man. That shit just doesn't even cross our minds. We don't think about being men. We don't think about other men being men as like the first thought that comes to us. We have the privilege of not thinking about it. I understand I got a little stun locked here, though I do like, kind of talking about this sort of thing. And so when men see other men as at best a neutral entity, and at worst competition or like a predator of some kind, you kind of realize that like, yeah, okay, I sort of get it. Transphobia is primarily based on hatred, distrust towards men, and that's why most of it is focused on trans women. Trans men aren't seen as men. They're seen as oftentimes young girls, part of falling into a trend or something. Meanwhile, trans women are seen as voluntary predators who are trying to don an accessory, a costume, and go into women's exclusive spaces to hurt them. Now here's where this worldview falls apart. When you look at the data, everything that the average person assumes to be true falls apart. It's not true. You might assume that maybe there is a slightly higher rate or chance of a trans woman being a predator than a cis woman. You might have thought that would be true. Turns out it's not. I shit you not, every bit of criminological data we have shows that cis women are more likely to be predators even when it comes to sex crimes per capita than trans women. Do you want to know what's even crazier? A trans woman is more likely to be violently or sexually assaulted by a cis woman than vice versa. When a trans woman enters, say, a woman's locker room or a woman's bathroom, it is significantly more likely that a cis woman is going to grope her up to see if she's cis, or beat the shit out of her upon accusing her of being trans or clocking her, than it is for that trans woman, or even a man dressed up as a woman, to assault or pull some kind of shit. And do you want to know why that is? Real life is not a Metal Gear Solid game, where as long as you put on a disguise, you're allowed to do shit that's illegal. What do you mean that, like, trans women are dressing up as and pretending to be women to enter women's spaces, and then do what? Assault them? Rape them? These are things that are already illegal. If a cis woman goes into the women's bathroom and starts ogling at, like, underage girls or women in there, or starts groping people, or doing any number of things that transphobes fear a trans woman would do in a woman's locker room or bathroom, they're going to prison. Your gender doesn't decide anything, and there are not security guards outside of bathrooms that keep people from, like, check and make sure you're going into the right bathroom. The way the law works in America is if you commit a crime, you go to jail for it, you go to prison, you go to court, and justice is served. You can't presume a crime will happen based on, well, prejudice is what it is. You're assuming someone is going to commit a particular crime because of their identity, and that is, by definition, prejudice. No different than if you were a cop and you saw a black guy walking down the street and were like, I bet he's up to no good, because he's black. Literally the same thing. It's the same fucking thing. But all the data suggests that the exact opposite is more likely. But the reality is not intuitive. Most people would not assume that trans women are less likely to be sexually assaulted or to sexually assault a cis woman than vice versa. Most wouldn't assume that. And there's a lot of reasons why, but none of them pull from data. Most people make up their minds based off of lived experience. A lot of people, even if they're not like overtly transphobic, have probably seen a lot of trans posters on social media, and I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but it is definitely true. Trans women online have a reputation for being more goonery, if that makes sense, publicly and openly goonery, than cis people. I might even be wrong about that, actually. Trans people might be less likely to be publicly gooner. But when cis people do it, no one's like saying, ooh, cis people gooning, that's weird. But regardless, though, a lot of people think trans women, they think like OnlyFans accounts or horny Twitter posters and edgelord Discord memers and whatnot. And it's hard not to imagine like, maybe trans women are more sexually inclined, and maybe that could lead to a higher likelihood of victimizing cis women. This is complete nonsense, of course, but it's the optics poisoning, as Lucky Otter called it, that a lot of normies fall for. These are not people who build up their positions based on data. They don't Google crime data. They just make assumptions based off of preconceived notions, many of them that are not very well formulated. I'm so glad I outgrew that edgy BS. I think I did a pretty good job of explaining the way that a lot of people think on this issue, which is why there's so much support in Texas right now to advance this bathroom bill, this bill that will make it a crime for trans people to use the quote-unquote wrong bathroom. Texas is not the only state to have done this. Florida famously did this, and we covered a story of a trans woman who actually protested the Florida law by going to the bathroom at the Capitol. Her name is Marcy Rankin, and she went to jail for a couple, I think a night, and then was expected to go to court facing nearly like 20 years in prison or something like that. It was a ridiculous amount of time. Thankfully, the judge threw her case out because the police and prosecutor didn't do their job right. They didn't succeed in putting together a case that the judge would accept in court, so she just got let off by default. Which is like maybe the worst best case scenario, you know? It's like, it's not like the judge said this is unacceptable, I'm not enforcing this law. The judge said, well, the prosecution was too incompetent, so I guess I'm throwing the case out. You're free to go. Charges dropped. Like, that's the worst best case scenario. But let's find out what's happening here in Texas.
Yes, good morning, Brandon. Debate over bathroom usage got very tense on the House floor, with community members shouting from the viewing gallery. Now, while Democrats say bathroom restrictions could lead to harassment, Republicans claim this is a safety issue. The policy in question.
They will never ever reference any data that suggests that there is a high rate of trans women committing sex crimes against cis women or any demographic whatsoever. Not children, not anything. Like, they have no data. They will not be able to produce any data. What they do have, though, is billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, no doubt, being disseminated throughout every single avenue of media, pushing stories, anecdotal stories about every single trans predator or presumed trans predator that they can think of, that they can find in the news cycle. And they push that out to people, and they flood people's feeds with that. And at a certain point, if you've met like 5 or 10 trans people, that's a lot of trans people to know, by the way, like as a normal person, you've probably heard stories of 100+ trans predators. Now, if you've met realistically 1, 2, 3 trans people, maybe they're chill, maybe you just don't know them all that well, but you've heard of hundreds or 100+ trans predators, it's easy to fall into a certain assumption, right? Like, you're basically building people up to build stereotypes about those groups in their mind.
Is Senate Bill 8, which requires restrooms in government buildings, public schools, and universities to be used by individuals based on their sex assigned at birth. The bill's author says the goal is for state agencies to have policies in place to ensure people will not encounter someone of the opposite sex in a changing facility, restroom, or shared private space. Now, institutions could face fines upwards of $25,000 for any violation.
That's right. That's right. The institutions that want to not enforce this rule could face fines for not enforcing it. They are literally trying to force this upon private companies, it seems, as well. Like, they're trying to make this the law. Like, you are, as a company, liable for some kind of, like, danger you're putting your guests in if you allow trans people to use the bathroom of their choice on your premises. Like, you're facilitating a dangerous crime. This is ridiculous.
$125,000 for any additional violation, which makes this policy the most financially punitive bathroom bill in the entire country.
Of course, because it's Texas and they really want to make an example out of trans people. How dare you be a minority in Texas? We'll make sure you learn.
The goal of SB 8 is not to collect fines. The goal is for political subdivisions and state agencies to have a policy in place that ensures people can use restrooms, changing facilities, and other shared spaces with confidence that they will not encounter a person of the opposite sex.
Why would it be the end of the world if they did? Co-ed bathrooms have existed for, like, ever? They exist in colleges? Like, you're telling me that among college students, co-ed bathrooms have not ended the fucking world. And you think that if we just allow the general public to have co-ed bathrooms, that's gonna end the world? You think college students are more capable of handling co-ed bathrooms than fucking the public? This happened in the UK? Yeah, the UK is going crazy with their anti-trans policy. I not happy with Britbongerland right now when it comes to the trans stuff. Man, I'm trying to decide, like, if I decide to leave America for a trip to do something political, like to cover some kind of political event, I've wondered if, like, going to a trans rights march in the UK would be a good one, right? Because the UK is actually kind of leading the world on anti-trans policy right now. They're arguably going further than the GOP has. I think the GOP wants to kind of keep trans people around as a wedge issue, not fully eradicate them. So if you're trans and worried about your life, just know that like Republicans know if you don't exist anymore, they can't use you to win elections anymore. So I don't think they want to kill all you, but like they're definitely going to make your life harder. They're going to make your life a lot harder. They want you to be a second-class citizen, and they want to be able to still use your existence to win elections in the future and to win over people in the future. So at the very least, if you're an American trans person, you know the GOP still needs you alive to win elections. So you know they're probably not going to actually kill you. But in the UK, it kind of feels like they want like mobs of like rad femmes on the streets, like dragging trans people out of their homes and like castrating them or something. Like it's some real like kill all men shit over there, and they very much want to start with the trans women.
I heard the bill author say that they weren't sure if they were here to protect trans rights, but we are. We're here to protect trans people's rights, and I want them to know, because I don't want anybody to go home today thinking that they are not wanted or loved, because that is not where we stand, not in Texas. Unfortunately,
it kind of is. But if you're a Democrat in Texas, it's not. But it's Texas. I mean, Texas is literally what I like. When I think bigotry, I think Texas, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, like all those red states. Texas is one of them.
The policy has been debated for more than a decade, but failed to pass in years prior. This bill will not impact any private entities and will not penalize individuals. The bill also
at least private entities won't be affected, but anything that is owned by the state will be. So every courthouse, every school, every like anything that is owned by the federal government. Hell, even the state park bathrooms, this law will apply to.
Restricts those assigned male at birth from accessing women's domestic violence shelters. Now, the bill will be sent back to the Senate for changes. Lawmakers have to approve all bills in this second special session by September 13th. Reporting live in Dallas, I'm Peyton May for Good Day.
This is some mega cringe. Now, let me tell you, folks. Like I said, I want to give a little bit of a silver lining to the trans folks out there. Well, it's not the most fantastic news you could get. The GOP doesn't want you dead. They still need you around so they can use you for political wins, since trans rights are not popular enough to like they're unpopular enough. Like trans rights are unpopular enough that they can just say trans people and they get a bunch of votes. So like until that's no longer the case, I don't think you have much to worry about when it comes to them trying to like eliminate the existence of trans people. That is some hope, you know. However, in the UK, in Texas on the state level, they are going to make your life a lot harder. And they're going to try to make existing in public a crime just so they can say they won. Just so they can say they did something to reduce and fix the trans person problem, you know? But what I want you to know is, for so long these people have had to claim, what rights don't trans people have? Hypers in chat, if you've heard that line. When you said trans rights, have you ever seen a conservative reply, what rights? What rights do trans people not have? as if like saying trans rights means like trans people have no rights. Trans rights literally just means rights for trans people. Preserve them, have them, like whatever, like it's a good thing, right? It's interesting how triggered they get by such a simple statement, right? We really need to bring that back. Regardless, though, trans... Oh, sorry, I completely lost my my train of thought there. Okay, yes. So, oftentimes they will say, what rights? What rights don't trans people have? What rights? Now, there are a lot of things you could list. Granted, back in 2020, earlier than that, there weren't a lot of things you could point to as, like, legislation on the books that wasn't being heavily challenged and shot down that was targeted at trans people specifically. Oftentimes, the policy they defend was, like, very... On paper, it's not problematic, but in action, it is kind of thing. And so there was a lot of, like, plausible deniability about it. They're slowly whittling that away. The more they write laws to say, trans people can't do this, they can't do that, they can't do this, they can't do that, they go to prison for this, just for being trans and doing that thing, when it wouldn't be illegal if you're cis. Like, the more laws they make like that, the more you can say, oh, what rights? How about all these things that cis people can do that trans people aren't allowed to do? So at the very least, they won't be able to pull the, trans people already have rights game, you know what I mean? I'm 48 years old. Most of my pre-2025 conservatives claim trans people have more rights than cisgenders. Yeah. Nowadays, the argument is they've defeated wokeness and trans people are going extinct. Anyway, folks. If you enjoyed this segment, and you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way whatsoever, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It's totally free and helps the channel immensely by basically forcing the algorithm to push my content to more people in the future. I really, really do appreciate it. It means so much, guys. And if you want to see more from me in the future, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos in the future. And if you want to see more from me on other platforms, don't forget to follow my social medias linked down below. Particularly, I recommend you join my fan Discord, as that'll be the main hub of my community and fan base. I host weekly gaming events, call-in streams, and watch parties there every week, such as tonight on Fridays. And I also announce all my new uploads and streams, so make sure to join. You won't regret it, and I hope to see you there. And finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or you can support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch to the Streamlabs link down below. I am a small creator, and considering YouTube gives you about 45% of the ad revenue your videos make, I wouldn't be able to do this for a living if it weren't for the direct support of you guys and your donations and subs and all that. So don't feel pressure to donate, but if you can, it means a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you for all of your support, though, no matter what form it takes, and as always, I hope you have a good one.